Well, hello there, my fellow rushers. How are you doing today? King Rexy here, and today we have a very unique hero design. And this hero is named Azumith, Master of Chaotic Energy. It was created by Tron from the future 1110, and he's one of the smaller Kingdom Rush YouTube channels, and he sent me what I think is his first hero design, and I read through it already, and I can say that it is pretty unique. Even though it is pretty short, as you can see, it's just that. We don't really have a lot of backstory here, but it doesn't matter. Just because I tend to write down very long backstories, it doesn't mean that you guys have to do it as well. I'm not gonna just deny you from reviewing your hero design just because you don't have a lore for him. That's like 10 pages long. I'm not gonna do that to you. So let's see what do we have here. Using the untapped energy of chaos and fear, this wizard will make mincemeat of any enemy that stands in his way. So he is a wizard type hero. Alright, interesting. Now let's see, we do have one big issue here. His HP is 100 with magic resistance at 50%. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that he is gonna die very easily. 100 HP is not a lot. Sure, he has magic resistance, which means that he's gonna have 200 efficient HP against enemies that do magic damage, which I do believe that in Vengeance there's quite a fair share amount of enemies that do magic damage, which is nice, but still. That doesn't mean that he's gonna be very tanky. You don't want to put him at the front lines no matter what happens. You want to keep him behind units at all costs. So, he should be very strong for being so squishy, right? Well, let's find out. So, he deals increasing damage with time, like the Blazing Gem or Inferno Tower from COC. I'm not quite sure which game this is referencing, sorry, I'm not a big gamer. Maybe someone in the comments is gonna tell me what this means. But it gains a level every 7 seconds, and moving him resets the cooldown. Okay, so level for the beam, I would assume. Okay, so every 7 seconds the beam gets stronger. So, here's the attack speed, 0.6 seconds, that's actually quite fast, which is nice. So, at level 1 he will deal between 10 to 11 magic damage, at level 2 dishes out 25 to 30 damage, and at level 3 deals 40 to 55 damage. Every time he kills an enemy, he can't attack for 2 seconds afterwards with his base attack. Alright, so, let's calculate how much damage he's gonna do on average when the beam reaches level 3 after 21 seconds, which is gonna be the amount of time that it takes for him to scale up the beam. So he's gonna do about 70.8 damage per second, and it's magic damage, so it is pretty good. There's not too many enemies in Vengeance that have heavy magic resistance, so it's gonna scale up very well against most enemies. So that's very good. He has very strong basic attack, although he is squishy, so keep that in mind. I do like how you have to level up the beam, though. It's not like super fast like the Blazing Gem, where it takes like, what, 1.6 seconds or so in order for the gem to get stronger. With this hero, you have to wait for quite a while, so yeah, be careful about it. So, here we have the abilities, but the thing is that his passive ability is way at the end, so we're gonna start reading from the end of the document. I know it is a little weird, but that's how he put it, so yeah. So, there's his passive ability. Curse of Dark will decrease nearby enemy damage by 5%. Alright, so enemies that stand near him deal less damage. 5% may not be all that much, but hey, that is cool, I guess. Having a permanent having a permanent decrease attack on enemies is pretty nice. Even though 5% may not be a lot, it's still quite unique. I haven't seen a lot of heroes have this passive aura that reduces attack damage, so that's nice. Now let's get on to his actual abilities. The first ability is Crystal Rain, where he fires off 4 crystals that crystallize enemies, making them take 20% more damage to his attacks and 10% from everything else. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Alright, so that's actually not that bad. Now, even though you may be thinking, well, why does this doesn't have a duration? Well, I would assume it is permanent. So until the enemy dies, he's gonna take 20% more damage from his basic attacks and 10% from everything else. So that's kind of, well, it's not really OP, it's kind of balanced because 20% more damage only taking from his basic attacks, and keep in mind that you need to stick on one enemy for 21 seconds in order to achieve the full potential damage, so yeah, it's not as OP as you may think, but 10% damage from everything else is quite nice. I do like this ability, and 30 seconds cooldown, I think it balances it out quite evenly. Moving on to the second ability, which is Unstable Magic. This gives his beam a 15% chance on every hit to do a critical hit, and when this happens, the hit deals 50% more damage and deals AoE that deals 25% of the hit's damage. Alright, that's actually pretty decent. So you're gonna do 50% more damage pretty frequently, I suppose. Even though 15% chance may not be all that much, keep in mind that his attack speed is 0.6 seconds. So you're gonna be attacking almost twice per second. So you can proc this chance pretty frequently. And if you get the damage on the high end, you're gonna do some decent AoE damage. Just like the unstable power of the Blazing Gem, but instead of having to kill the enemy in order to trigger it, you can trigger it just by attacking them. And I think that this can happen pretty frequently. So that's a nice way for him to do passive area damage just by attacking an enemy. Pretty nice. I would assume that the damage is still magical, even from the explosion, because it doesn't specify, and you know, his base damage is magical, so I would assume it is magic damage instead of like physical or true damage. Okay, third ability is called Corrupt Crystal. Every 40 seconds he will summon a crystal that fires rapid fire shots at one target that deal between 5 to 10 true damage and fires 4 times a second. Lasts for 11 seconds. Alright, that's actually very good. Even though you may be thinking, oh, the damage is actually very low. Well, it's true damage and it attacks super fast. So, theoretically speaking, he's gonna do between let me just calculate real quick. So he's gonna do between 20 to 40 damage per second, which is not bad. That's a pretty decent amount of true damage. It kind of reminds me of the, what would you call it? The Wild Magus from Kingdom Rush Origins. But, you know, the Wild Magus there dealt magic damage and it was incremental, while this one is just straight up flat true damage, but it does attack pretty fast. And for 11 seconds, that's actually some pretty good duration, I suppose. 11 seconds, that's not bad. So, yeah, it is pretty strong, even though it's not going to be very active. Like, it's going to be active about a quarter of the time. It still deals a good amount of true damage. Even though you may be thinking that the number is low, because of its rapid fire, it can be kinda decent. Now, I'm not quite sure if it can only attack one enemy and then disappears. Like, if, for example, if he's attacking an enemy that has, like, I don't know, let's say 100 HP, and the Corrupted Crystal kills him, is he still gonna be up, or is he just gonna straight up disappear? I would assume that it's just gonna retarget the nearest enemy, and that's how it works, which is pretty nice. Okay, now moving on to the fourth ability, which is called Blazing Rounds. This attack rapidly fires seeking 12 missiles on every of energy that deal 13 true damage each. Cooldown is 25 seconds. Okay, that's not that bad. 12, even though 13 true damage seems like a very low number, you have 12 missiles, so the damage is actually not terrible. You're gonna do some pretty alrightish damage. You're gonna do almost 160 true damage with this ability. Like, if we count all the missiles, it's almost 160 true damage. So it's not terrible for 25 seconds cooldown. And from what I can see, they're seeking. So I would assume that it's kind of like the Doom Tank's missile barrage, where you just fire them off and they just seek enemies across the map, which is pretty good. Now I just hope that they have a good targeting, because with the Doom Tank, usually the missiles just go to one enemy and they just, you know, disappear because they overkill the enemy, which is bad. So hopefully these missiles will have a better targeting. And the thing is, even though 13 true damage is low, at least you're not gonna be overkilling enemies, which is good, because with some abilities of different heroes, the issue is that some of their abilities can overkill very easily, and getting an overkill on an enemy means that you lose a lot of damage out of this ability. But this is not the case for the Blazing Rounds. It's a pretty good ability. And last but not the least, we also have the ultimate ability, which is Deep Impact. This attack will send an orbital strike down, causing all enemies caught in it to take 100 true damage a second. This lasts for 15 seconds, and the cooldown is 150 seconds. and it cannot be sped up by calling rounds earlier. Now that's a very interesting way of making an ultimate ability. So it is super strong. It's basically 1500 true damage in a what I would assume is a medium to large AoE, which is very good. Like that's a lot of true damage, man. Like 1500. Now, the only problem with that is that you have to keep enemies in this AoE for 15 seconds, and even though the enemies in Vengeance are pretty slow, you still have to stall them, and I'm not quite sure if you're gonna be able to stall all of them in this AoE for such a long period of time, but I guess you can do it if you're going for like heavy barrack related strategies. But yeah, this ability is pretty good. Although I'm not quite sure how to feel about the cooldown. 150 seconds is quite a long time. But I suppose for having such a high damage, it's kind of balanced. Unlike, I mean, take for example Durax's ultimate ability. It also deals a huge amount of true damage, and you can distribute it amongst enemies. So you can do a solid amount of true damage to a single target, or just damage a bunch of enemies in an area equally. And the cooldown is like what, 40 seconds, I think, and you can still speed it up, so you can use it potentially multiple times around, which was pretty broken. So having a very long cooldown balances out the ability for its power. I'm just not sure why you cannot speed it up by calling rounds earlier. I think that's a little bit of a harsh punishment for this ability, but I would assume that it makes it more balanced in a way. Okay, so that's pretty much all about this hero. And here's the last sentence from the document. Let me know what you guys think about this hero in the comments below. Thanks for reading. Well, I do think that you made a very unique hero, Tron. That was pretty good. I really like the idea of a hero that has a basic attack similar to the Blazing Gem. I haven't seen that in any of the hero designs that have been sent, or in any of the hero designs that I have made. So that's pretty good. Even though I have like at this point over 80 hero designs that I've created, I haven't really thought of a hero that has a Blazing Gem type of attack. So definitely getting some points for uniqueness there. I would say this hero is pretty solid. Although even though he is very squishy, it kind of makes up for it just because of how much raw power this guy has. So I think it evens it out. I would have given him maybe a little bit of extra HP, maybe like just a smidget, like 50 HP, just so he can be a little bit more tanky. But I suppose it may or may not be too good, but still. Alright guys, well, comment down below what you think of this hero. And speaking of hero designs, I think I'm gonna do something interesting for the next week. Instead of reviewing a fan-made hero of another fan, I think I'm gonna show you one of mine. And I'm not quite sure which one I'm gonna pick, we'll see, but it will be a surprise, let's just say that. We'll see which hero I'm gonna show with you. And yeah guys, well, with that out of the way, that's gonna do it for the video. Thank you everybody so much for watching, I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content in the future, and while you're at it, drop a like on the video, it means a lot to me. And I will see you in the next video. Until it comes, that was King Rexy, over and out.